Up 120% in just the last month, HIMS is one of the best performing stocks in the market right now. But is it overpriced?
Meanwhile, an earnings alert on HIMS and HERS Health, shares dropping despite a top and bottom line beat.
So depending where you got into HIMS stock, you're either one of those two people, right? Either you say that, oh my god, it's up 100% in the past 1 month, I can't believe it, or oh my god, it's down 20% in a day after earnings, right? So if you take a look at HIMS stock, it has been an incredibly volatile stock, right? Because you can see that it actually went from like $7 to $8 all the way up to $73, right? So today we're going to talk about HIMS stock, right? Because actually I have had a very, very long history with HIMS, right? Actually, I first got into the stock when it was around $6. So I made some update videos every now and then on HIMS, but back then I wasn't posting as consistently as I was right now, right? So let me run through my brief story with HIMS and then maybe you guys can understand where I'm coming from, right? So I first got into HIMS, I think my average price was around $7.16, and I made it around 30% of my portfolio somewhere back in 2023, right? So late 2023, I was in HIMS, right? Because I was talking about how I was selling my Alibaba stock and putting all the proceeds into HIMS here around $6, and then I was adding when it went up as well, right? So I sold most of my shares around $21. Actually, I sold somewhere here as well, but then I bought back here. So some people might say, oh, isn't that trading, blah, blah, blah. So yes, in a sense, it is. In fact, HIMS has been a very, very volatile stock, right? You can see here it went up to $17 and then it went back down to $11.50, something like this, right? So obviously, I regret every share that I've sold, right? Because my last selling and my average selling was around $21, and you can see it went all the way up to $73. But to evaluate whether it's a good or bad decision, right? Obviously, we can't look with hindsight goggles, right? Because now I can see everything that has happened. Then obviously I will say, oh, it went straight up since I sold somewhere there. Actually, it didn't go straight up. It actually went down about 35% from the point that I sold, but it doesn't matter, right? Because I didn't get back in, right? I wanted it to go down 50%, and maybe that was my mistake, right? And then you can see from here, it skyrocketed all the way to 70 something dollars as the retail crowd really pushed the stock up, right? So you can see that HIMS actually is a very, very volatile stock. And now that I've ran through it, I want to mention that I actually have gotten back into the stock actually just yesterday, and I just had time to make this video, right? So I got in yesterday after this 50% crash. I bought somewhere around 35.50, I think. So if you want to watch some of my past HIMS videos, yeah, obviously I'm not lying to you, right? Why would I do that? I've actually made all these videos. You can see February 2024, April 2024, and then May 2024, right? So obviously I have a quite, I would say, decent understanding. But at this point, right, when I was selling here, it was trading around 45 times free cash flow, right? I remember I sold at a $4.5 billion market cap, and I was projecting it to only make 100 million in free cash flow, right? But obviously those numbers were dead wrong, right? Because I can show you my old presentation that I made. So this is the old presentation that I made, right? So you can look through my slides, can pause the video to take a look, right? Where I was right, where I was wrong. I also have came back and taken a look. So I also understand where I made mistakes and things like that, right? Because I was actually making these slides, I think, in late 2023. So now it's early 2025, right? First quarter 2025. And you can see that my assumption was 100 million free cash flow, right? So when I was selling the stock, it was around $4.5 billion market cap, and I was still using this $100 million free cash flow assumption, right? Which quite clearly was very wrong, right? So maybe the mistake was actually selling a great company that quickly, right? But now I have a new HIMS presentation, and I like to go through my presentation and my assumptions and why I am back into the stock, right? So obviously, if you ask me, would you rather have held up to 70 and then go back down here, and now it's at 37, right? Obviously that would be even better, right? So even after this 50% decline, I would still have done better if I just held on to the shares, right? But obviously I can't see the future, right, at the time. So today I'm going to run through my HIMS presentation using their latest quarter, some of the slides, and then I'm going to run through my own assumptions, right? So I'm not going to go through these slides in too much detail, but basically this is the total addressable market slide, right? Basically it's going to tell you, okay, we can do this in sexual health, dermatology, 100 million in mental health, and 100 million in weight loss, right? And this is only, I think, in the US, right? Yeah, it is. Look, estimated US population. So this is only in the US, right? And obviously there's not more than, they can't do 100% of the US, right? Because you see 80, 100, that's 360 million. That's about the population of the US. But obviously they can't do it all, right? But there is some sort of cross-selling happening here, because some people that have mental health problems might also have weight loss problems, so they can cross-sell through things like that, right? So the next slide is talking about their tech platform, and this I'm not going to go through too specifically, because obviously I'm not that good with tech as well, right? So they can go through this awareness and access, exceptional service, and data-driven personalized solutions. So I haven't used any of HIMS and HERS products, but from the feedback that I've been hearing, people reviews online, and some of the people I know that live in the US, they say it's a well-known brand, right? So I think the strategy also tells you a lot about the moat, right? Because you can see that there's more subscribers on the platform, then there's additional data. Next, there's data-driven solutions, right? And then higher quality outcomes, which leads to people referring their friends, families, and all of that, which is more subscribers, right? So this is the HIMS and HERS flywheel, I would say. So I would use this to gauge their market share, right? But it's not a one-to-one comparison with market share, right? Because obviously I don't think HIMS has 50% of the telehealth market cornered, right? Because this is like nearly 50% and nearly 50%, right? And this is something I didn't foresee so well. And maybe that's why when I was selling at $21, there was someone buying from me at $21, right? Because they could understand this a bit better than me. Sorry about that. And this next slide is the HIMS and HERS versus the other competitors, how much their GLP weight loss plans are, right? You can see that HIMS is nearly $2,000, and the nearest one is about 10% more expensive. And then after that, it's just nobody will even consider these options unless they don't know about the other options, right? You can see 2008, 3002, and 4005 per year, right? This is annually, right? So next, if you take a look at their basically I would call each of this one vertical, right? And they say that they have 5 verticals that can do at least $100 million in revenue, right? So it's not only like a one trick pony company, or as people say, right? Because in 2020 or 2021, people will say that HIMS is just a ED company, right? They sell Viagra and drugs like that, right? But after that, when they had other things like hairspray and stuff like that, which was this second one, right? Men's Dermatology. And then they say, oh, it's just a sexual health company. And then Men's Dermatology came out, oh, it's just this company. So actually they have 5 verticals, which is, I think, more than enough, right? If you have a company which has 5 verticals that all do above $100 million, you wouldn't say that this is specific to this company, right? So the next slide we're going to take a look at is the launch of new specialties, right? And this is really what has allowed HIMS to basically scale and do as much revenue as they can, right? Because if they've stayed in these two verticals, I don't think they'll be able to have their revenue growth that they have now, right? So you can see that the HIMS Dermatology, last time it was growing like 80%, and then they add HERS, and then it's still growing, and it's growing even faster after this, right? When you see 2022. So around 2023 and 2024, their growth has slowed down a bit, but obviously the revenue base has been exploding, right? So you can't really blame them for slowing down a bit. But you can see they started with HIMS Derm and also sexual health. That's why people were calling this a ED company, and then now they have 5 verticals, right? So the next thing is revenue growth driven by expanding subscriber base and further complemented by increasing revenue per average subscriber, right? So this basically means that their subscribers are increasing. Meanwhile, the subscribers spend, like how much you spend per subscriber, is also increasing, right? So this would be like a twin turbine, right? Really pushing them forward. Because imagine you have, let's say, 100 subscribers and they spend $100 each. But now you have 200 subscribers and all of them spend $200 each, right? Actually, the revenue growth will be insane, right? So next we talk about the strong unit economics, but I think this is the most important point for me, right? Less than 1 year payback period, right? Means if you outlay $100, you get back $100 within a year, right? And that's very, very good, right? That's 100% return on invested capital, right? So next we can take a look at online revenue and also repeat customers, right? Actually, repeat customers is more important than the online revenue growth. And I want to explain why, right? Because actually HIMS spends a lot of their revenue on marketing, right? So if you cannot get any repeat customers, basically you have this leaky bucket, right? there's an economic concept called a leaky bucket, right? Which is that if you go put through 100 customers, some of the customers will fall off, right? Because maybe they have bad experience with your product, they don't like your product, it doesn't fit them or something like that, right? So now you can see that 30% of these customers are falling through the leaky bucket, right? And 70% are remaining, which is very, very good numbers for a healthcare company, honestly, because every healthcare company that I know, everyone just hates it, right? So strong free cash flow enabling ability to scale business while maintaining exceptional balance sheet, right? So HIMS obviously has a very, very good balance sheet, right? Strong cash position and no debt. Second is they have about $200 million in free cash flow annually. So you can see that they are not going bankrupt anytime soon, right? And then the last thing we want to take a look at is the 2025 outlook and guidance, right? Fiscal year 2025, they expect to do 2.3 billion to 2.4 billion. This is management guidance. So you can see, obviously no longer 80% growth, right? But we'll see, right? Maybe at the end of the year, it's actually 80% and we'll be looking at $2.7 billion instead of $2.4 billion, right? We won't know about that until we see it at the end of the year. And then lastly, this is the 2024 numbers, basically the revenue, net income / loss. And you can see from 2023, how come the stock can go up so much. In fact, when I was holding the stock, it was a triple in about, I think, 6 to 8 months. And it's because it flipped from this negative numbers to heavily positive numbers, right? And that's why it went up so much. So now let's talk a bit about the recent earnings as well as my key takeaways, and then I'll do a valuation on HIMS and her stock, right? So announcing a new CTO. Second point is they are focused on the possibility of using AI in medicine, right? And this has been talked about more and more in the recent weeks, right? Because obviously their earnings wasn't like 1 week ago. I took some time to process this, and especially since there's this giant decline in stock price, right? And this was kicked off by the earnings, but it was continued because of the Donald Trump tariffs and stuff like that, right? If you're enjoying the video so far, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. This will help out the channel immensely, and I thank you very much. So I think they're quite invested into this because they said obesity treatment is the next big vertical, right? Realize they don't say that it's GLP-1s or something like that, right? They say obesity treatment. This can be oral pills, this can be teaching people how to eat better and stuff like that, right? So there may not be a more impactful use case as the obesity epidemic, right? Which can impact 100 million people across the country, right? And this is just across the country. What happens when they talk about across the globe, right? You have to remember that. They also had a Super Bowl ad, and next they are touting the personalization of healthcare. Because I think a lot of us have this experience where we go to a doctor and then they just give you painkillers. Then your question to yourself is, why don't I buy painkillers from my local pharmacy instead of I come to a doctor and then they're going to prescribe me something that actually doesn't help the underlying problem. It just helps you not feel the underlying problem. And I think people want to solve the underlying problem, right? If you have a broken foot and you keep taking painkillers, right? Obviously you're not going to feel that you have a broken foot. Maybe you can even walk fine, right? But as soon as you're off the painkillers, you're going to feel, wow, why does my foot hurt so much, right? So the next point is R&D on future specialities. Obviously now they have 5 verticals, right? Maybe they want to get to 10. Maybe they want to get to 20. That's what they're talking about, right? So some of my other key takeaways is one key thing to note is that they're pushing against big pharma, right? And the last thing is HIMS has something to offer that other companies do not, right? And this is in quotation marks. They say that they have extreme patience, right? But I think this is some management speak as well, right? I wouldn't take this with too much salt, right? So here are some of the key stats. Monthly online revenue increased 38% year over year. Marketing expense is 46% of revenue. So that's why you see that I mentioned the leaky bucket effect there, right? Because they are spending a lot of their revenue, so they have to retain a lot, right? So retention rate is about 85%. Free cash flow is 200 million in 2024. Q1 2025 revenue is 520 to 540 million, and 725 million of weight loss products in 2025, right? And this includes some semi-glutides. So I think they have at least like half of 2025 to still sell the generic semi-glutides, as well as they can do personalized semi-glutides and they can still sell it, right? So next, HIMS Q&A, some of the interesting questions that I heard and interesting points that I heard. Optimistic, right? They hope for 10 million subs in 5 years, right? And if you see 10 million subs for this company in 5 years, you can be assured that your money is going to more than 5x, right? Because imagine 10 million subs and each of them just go up 20%. That's the equivalent of 12 million of today's subscribers, right? So AI at the core of their strategy has a lot of proprietary data, and I think this is going to be a very, very big moat in the long future, right? Because let's say 10 years from now, you have 10 years of the data, right? Imagine you have 20 million subscribers on your platform, and you have all the AI analyzing people's data. That's going to be very, very useful for you, right? Personalization of medicine to remove bugs from medicine, right? So what can we say bugs from medicine? Because some medicines have something that you might be allergic to. So HIMS helps you remove the thing that you're allergic to, and then you won't have so much reactions to those kind of medicines, right? So hers is growing very fast because of the previous knowledge from HIMS, right? And I think this hers brands will grow way faster than HIMS, right? Because when you take a look at men, I don't think we take that good care about our face, our maybe our bodies, yes, but our face and also our mental health, I don't think we take as good care of it as females, right? So last but not least, obviously I'm a valuation guy, so I have to do a valuation on HIMS, right? So if you use the 2024 numbers, this is the numbers, right? So 8.2 billion, this is today's market cap divided by about 200 million dollars, 198 million dollars. You get a 41.4 times free cash flow ratio. That is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, right? And then the next one is 8.2 billion divided by 1.4765 billion, which you get 5.55x revenue. I would say this is not cheap either, in my opinion. But when we take a look at the projection section, right, you can see that I expect 20 to 30% growth for the next 3 to 5 years easily, right? And this is after 2025 because they already gave us 2025 guidance. So I'm gonna project out to 2030, right? So you can see that 8.2 billion for using their 2025 guidance, you're actually trading at a 3.5 times revenue ratio. So I think HIMS today is very dependent because it's a growth company after all. It's very dependent, right, on how well the company can execute, right? Because if let's say they grow revenue way slower than this, then maybe it's a 4x revenue or 4.5x revenue, and then when the market feels like they cannot grow as much anymore, they will definitely crash the stock, right? That's why you can see that there's a lot of multiple compression during this time, right? Anytime they have some sort of scare, right? Let's say Amazon is coming into the healthcare market, then you can see there's a 30-40% drop, right? Here also is another 30 to 40% drop. I think even from the point that I saw was 21, it was a 35% drop. So I think from here it was a 50% drop, right? So yeah, 26 to what, 13 here? Yeah, that's about a 45 to 50% drop. And then next, if you take a look at my free cash flow projections, I'm expecting a doubling of the free cash flow this year as well, right? To 400 million, and I know that's very optimistic, and I do believe that they can do this actually. So 8.2 billion, and I'm using 2025 free cash flow assumptions. This is 20.5 times free cash flow, right? If they hit my numbers, this stock is looking cheap, right? But it depends whether they hit my assumptions, right? And next, if I run out the future valuation, right, 400 million times 1.3, which is what I expect, 30% growth for at least 3 to 5 years, right? And then I project it out to 2030, right? This is what I get, right? About $1.5 billion in free cash flow. So we use these numbers times 20 times free cash flow ratio. We'll get about a $30 billion market cap, right? So this obviously all depends on their growth, right? So for HIMS today, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of volatility. So make sure this is within your risk profile, right? Don't put your whole portfolio inside if you can't handle the risk, right? Because I don't think that is very risky for me, because I think even if they don't hit this assumptions, as long as their growth rates don't completely crash, their stock is not going to go down 90% like from 2021 to 2022, right? So my thoughts are that even if they don't hit the exact optimistic numbers I have, but they hit something like, let's say 350 million, in 1 or 2 years, the valuation will bail me out, right? So I'll still have a good return on it, right? So that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead, and peace out.